Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up. Tonight, we're gonna light it up. Tonight, we're gonna light it up. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna light it up. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up. Tonight, we're gonna light it up. Tonight, we're gonna light it up. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna light it up.
Ember. Oh, Ember.
Miss Ember.
Oh, great, Ember. Tell me what I'm doing.
Hey, Ember. How you doing?
Appreciate you, Ember.
Love Ember. She's great.
We will be yelling at Ember.
Bottom of the barrel Ember bullshit.
Oh my God, Ember. Ember. Ember.
Ember.
Ember's
Ember.
Ember. Ember.
Ember.
Ember.
We love you, Ember.
You rock at that, Ember.
We're neighbors, Ember.
Ember is the queen.
What's up, Ember?
I see you, Ember.
But hey, Ember is hot.
Love it.
Hello, everyone.
Because Ember still is hot.
Well,
Ember is very hot.
only because my heater is very, very effective.
It could be the dead of winter in a blizzard.
It is the dead of winter, and it is blizzarding.
See, you don't even need the heater. It's still hot.
Well, the heater, it's off right now because I turned it down so I wouldn't melt during the show. But we'll see how that goes. No, I don't know. I'm constantly like, when you start second puberty, your body starts changing, and it's going to be changing for years and so forth. But I'm having a tragic moment because for some reason I got the idea that I was gonna wear black today for Underground Railroad stuff, I guess, to like blend in with my void, so that because Underground Railroad is about hiding and secrecy. I don't fucking know what I was thinking, but this is my size 2 dress, and I can barely get into it now because my size is changing. I mean, I can't be that mad about it, but I'm also kind of mad about it.
Mine is not that reason. Mine is because I've been eating too many bonbons. So I'm not fitting some of my clothes that I fit even a couple months ago.
It's weird. Everything's weird. Happy Friday, folks. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you enjoyed the new... I added a bunch more voices. I still have a bunch more to add.
Yeah,
but it was getting so long that I'm like, you know what? Let's see what happens if I move it to inside the countdown. And suddenly it shrunk back down to its original size. Weird, right?
Yeah. I liked it though.
Yeah, I know everybody loves the music, but I didn't cut the music. I just tried to like mix it in with the music. I don't know how well it worked though, but
I like the music, but you know,
Yeah.
this is cool too. Yeah, like it's better. You know, your show, your
What
rules,
was-
that's right.
it's better than Ember. What's better than Ember? A lot of people. I just
Talking about Ember
the
is better.
original thought behind that whole thing with people saying my name was partly to show off the one person who disparages me.
Yeah. I noticed that.
Yeah, and be like, while he speaks disparagingly of me, like 2 days before, he was on my show talking about how great my production was.
People are crazy, man.
You know, whatever. But it kind of started to become a thing. Like every creator you know likes me, except for that one guy. So like, you know, not that, you know, majority opinion should matter or anything. Draw your own conclusions.
Well, don't feel bad.
I mean,
that
there are people
person-
who really do not like me out there. But
Yeah, so yes. Okay. That same person was talking about another creator yesterday.
I don't know. I don't pay that much attention. Like I keep an eye out in case that person becomes a threat again.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't really care. He's just not part of my world anymore.
Yeah, I doesn't understand. Like, what is wrong with you?
Jason says, "Know me by my enemies." There's
How are you,
something to
Jason?
that. That's where we get the concept of, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like, if you're buddied up with the Heritage Foundation and the Christian nationalists and the people in the Trump files, then if you don't like me, then what does that say? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
Exactly. Like there's some people like if you a Christian nationalist, a Trump supporter, I don't even want to deal with you. I mean, it's just enough. Because I see what you stand for, what he stands for, and you agreeing with him. Are you that same kind of person? It's different between, you know.
Cool with it. And if you're, or more precisely, if you're cool with them and against the people who do try to help others, who do try to do good, like, for example, who run things to try to fundraise for organizations like the Trevor Project, for example, you know, that sort of thing, or who try to help members in their own community, like we're doing later today, right here on this channel. The link to this show is pinned in the description. The link to the actual GoFundMe fundraiser is in both the description and the chat of that show. That's at 6 p.m. today. AJ and I are going to be raising some hell, and a whole bunch of cool people are going to be joining us. So I hope you come along, and I hope you share, you spread the word, because, you know, Helen is a wonderful person.
Yes.
Like I have. She makes fewer moral mistakes than most mortals. I'm not entirely convinced she is a mortal. However, she does have a mortal body, and mortal bodies get defective from time to time. She had to have major surgery, lost work, her husband's out of work, medical bills,
was a double whammy.
biological pain. It's all bad. And so we want to do a fundraiser about it. So I hope you come. And if you don't know Helen, well, you're going to learn a little bit about her, but also about all these cool people too. So yay.
Yeah, all I see is my family on here. Mendices, Anthea, Steve, that's my homeboy. This my family on here. So if you want to, you know.
I know. I don't know why the YouTube preview doesn't show the whole thumbnail. That's just rude.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't. And then you saw that I posted the clip that Dr. Kip put on promoting it on my channel. I put that on my page, a little more promotion and stuff like that.
Hell yeah.
So,
yeah, and even people who can't make it, we've got bits from. Like I've got a video from Kelly. A video from Carrie. There's there's all kinds of cool stuff. So come join us. Come check us. Come
Yep.
check it out. And most importantly, spread the word. Share with other people. So folks
donate
know.
if you can.
Yep. I'll be hanging out.
Hell yeah!
I'll be in
hell
the
yeah.
chat. Yesterday, my internet at work seemed to be pretty seamlessly. That's something that they put blockers at work to block us from using, because sometimes it works perfectly. Hopefully, the same thing happens today, so I can watch the whole thing without any interruptions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it will be rewatchable later. And also the fundraiser, the actual GoFundMe will remain open after the show. So whether you can make it or not, share that around too, and consider donating even after the show's wrapped. Because
what time does the fundraiser go to tonight?
The show goes until 9:30 Eastern. It's 6
Okay.
p.m. Eastern to 9:30 Eastern. And then we're going to kick everybody over to Dr. Ben's for a little
game night.
His normal game show night is also going to double as sort of our after party this time. So it'll be pretty cool. So come along for that too.
At some point today, my interview with Ambushed Apostate Seth should be up. I think he's going to try to put it up either just before or just after the fundraiser. Just FYI. But check it out whenever it gets out.
Yeah, I'm doing
It'll
mine.
Be a surprise.
When we finish here, I'll be going up to a channel to do our recording, and it'll be posted next week.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I sent you stuff about the Detroit station and stuff.
You did. I added that. I do have one other thing before we get into today's actual topic.
Okay. I would let you know if you didn't see it or not.
I did.
Oh, who is the cuties?
I finally caught all three kitties in one
space. They're adorable. I've had a cat every color. That black, that was Onyx, and then the honey, he was called Honey, and then the gray was Bandit. That's what I named the cats that look like those. Those are the names I had.
Okay, so we have a Kip analog and a Daisy analog. No Pixie analog, but that's okay.
They're adorable.
It's all right. So these are in order of seniority. This big void critter here who has his very own pillow on top of the couch is named Minna, after the character from Zelda. And then this lovely lady up here is named Joy. And then this critter down here, he's a kitten, really. He's like a year old, he's barely full size. His name is William. My housemate named him
William the Conqueror
after his father. I'm like, he could have been William of Orange. What are you doing? But he is named after my roommate's father. But still, William, and he is orange. So hooray! And they all. So Minna is the oldest. He's been with my roommate for many years. He does not like men. My roommate is the exception. But aside from my roommate, I'm the only person in the house he actually likes.
That's how my cat was. My cat likes my dad. No other guys. No one else.
William, he's persnickety. He loves pets, but he does not like to be held. Do not try to cage him in. You can pet him for days, but he has to stay on his own terms. He will not be controlled. And Joy's kind of the same way. Like, she enjoys human company, but from the shoulder. She will not be held. She must be on. She's a shoulder cat. So
I did notice that about cats. Like, if they come to you and they get on your lap or something, that's cool. But they don't want to pick them up, actually. Like, I'll get on your lap, but don't pick me up to make me get on your lap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they choose their time, and all sorts of fun things. Yeah,
I had a cat for 17 years. I can pull up a quick picture. I had a cat for 17 years and absolutely love this cat. Where's it? There we go. There's a picture. His name was Skunk. He was a big fat cat. And I'd be sitting there eating pizza. He would jump across, grab the pizza out of my hand, take it under my bed, eat it, but he would only eat the pepperoni on top. Wouldn't touch the rest of it, just the pepperoni.
I remember one time I had make some pork chops and sides and all that. And so it was leftovers. I went and warmed my plate, put it on the table, went to feed the dogs. The cat jumped and knocked my food on the floor. I had two pit bulls and then a cat. Two pit bulls and a cat. So they going around to get food. The cat grabbed one of my pork and ran into the bed real quick. She was like, if I let the dogs get there, he made sure I'm gonna get this pork chop. I'm like, what? I'm hungry. It was the last leftover. So
sometimes critters can be so rude.
I had to go to bed hungry. Like, you can eat off cat and dog food. What do I have? Nothing.
Yeah, my shirt is the thing about pets.
Yeah. But not the dog, because the dog is looking at me eating with a cat like the food on. You know what, damn you, cat.
Yeah, you can't eat anything in my house without at least one of them being like, please. And I'm like, oh my God, you just ate. You're not starving. But they'll give you those starving puppy eyes.
Speaking of that, I need to, for what I'm going to eat today.
Yeah, eating today is a worthy goal. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, so our dawdling, our notes, our tangents complete. Underground Railroad stuff. I know, very, very abrupt topic change. First of all, if we do that here, we tangent, we do side stuff. It's people come here for the tangents. It's literally on the merch. If you're new and you're down for that sort of thing, along with the various learning goodies that we're about to undertake, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really, really helps. And we have a goal for this year so we can do better fundraisers. So, also share. Do the share thing, but please do subscribe. Okay, Underground Railroad. First thing first, the name, right? Like today we understand the term something being underground to be a synonym for like a secret something, an organization or a movement or something, or even a fugitive. They've gone underground. It comes from the Underground Railroad. That appears to be the first usage of that term in that way, because it doesn't refer to a real railroad, although sometimes there were trips on the railroad as part of the journey, but that's not really the reason. They used code words. So we talked about Harriet Tubman a couple of weeks ago. She was a conductor. She said she'd never lost a passenger. That's where that comes from, a railroad passenger. People who connected slaves with those who could help them find the railroad were agents. Safe houses and other hiding places were called stations, and the people who managed them were station masters. There were a few other terms like financial benefactors being called stakeholders, but they don't come up nearly as much. By using code from the still new and mysterious railroad system, a careful person could talk about transporting people to freedom without getting turned into the slave catchers, which was very illegal at the time. Also worth noting, the railroad didn't always point north. We have this idea that it always took people to Canada, but that's just not true. Data is, of course, difficult to come by, given the secret nature of the operations and the distance in time. But some researchers estimate 500,000 people escaped into Mexico or the Caribbean, where the slave trade was already prohibited.
Yep, that is fact.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into like how did it work and what was the experience like and some of the places that are still around that were involved, because like we all have this general sense of what the thing was, but we don't really know, because it's beyond the scope of public education of how did it work though. Like you can't just be like, why didn't every slave go free this way? Because you couldn't just hop on the Underground Railroad. You had to find it. It was hidden for the protection of everybody involved. And to find it, you needed the help of an agent, and then the agent had to like connect you. And there was a whole bunch. It was like an espionage ring. It was really like spy versus spy, because there were agents and counter agents and people trying to infiltrate in both directions. The slave catchers were trying to find every cell of this railroad they could to dismantle the damn thing, and the agents and conductors were trying to reach the enslaved people to get them out to safety. And so it was very complicated. So we're gonna dig into that a little bit. Do either of you know very much about the railroad and how it worked?
I mean, I know a little bit about it because I live in Detroit, of course, and so there's an Underground Railroad not too far from my house. And I also been to the Jebediah Museum in Canada as well. You found a lot more details there because there's stuff you don't even learn in America about the history of it.
Yeah.
You know, but
I mean,
I've seen a lot of documentaries on a PBS and stuff about it, and I was growing up and things like that. I wish I could find that. That was really informational video that I saw years ago.
Some of them are.
Yeah.
Even some of the docudramas, like Roots, for example.
Yeah.
It's got bits and pieces. It's not really all the information you could want to know, but there's some in there.
Like Harriet, the movie Harriet. They kind of went into detail in Underground Railroad. And then you find out how like certain stations had to change because slavery. They ended up, because I think what was the southernest state that slavery was illegal there, but they still made it in a law with the government that you still can't, if slaves come in this part, they're gonna be shipped back if you're not free. So they had to move them further. That's how they eventually got to Canada. People don't know that many times when they did go to Canada, it didn't mean it necessarily was free, because sometimes the slave catchers could still come to Canada and get them and send them back as well. So a lot of them, a lot of them are going to Nova Scotia and stuff like that, because that's where they can go and not be free. They would go to Nova Scotia.
It was a bit tricky because, of course, United States laws don't apply in Canada. So the Fugitive Slave Act didn't have any power. But you could be a bounty hunter in Canada. That's still a thing that's legal in both nations. You just had to be able to prove to any authorities who confronted you that you had a legal right to be chasing and apprehending a person.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is tricky, but...
So I was like, damn, all this work they did and they could still be slaves, they made it to Canada? That's sad.
Well, the real bitch of it is that you could take advantage of the corruption in both systems to just kidnap people and say that you were apprehending an escaped slave. And they did a lot. It's sort of like what ICE is doing now. It doesn't matter what your paperwork says. The guy with the gun says you're his property now. We have a lot of trouble with that here in the United States. We've never been very good on the whole freedom thing for this whole free country business, but I love you. Oh, goodness. All right, so let's start with the routes and methods and things. And for that, we're gonna go to a text source. So the Underground Railroad routes that went north to the Free States and to Canada, south to the Caribbean, to United States Western Territories and into Indian Territory. Sometimes it's worth noting, this is a thing that gets... We try to be inclusive with our history classes here in the US. A thing that often gets very overlooked because of interests of racism of different flavors. The Cherokee Nation was the largest slaveholder in the United States. Like the nation collectively owned thousands of slaves.
They don't want to
And
talk about that.
this is still an issue today. Like as part of one of the resolutions at the end of one of the wars, the Cherokee had to effectively take all their slave population and make them full members of the tribe legally. Now that the nation has a casino, they're trying to evict the descendants of their slave members from the roll so they don't have to share the profits of the casino with the descendants of their former slaves, even though most of them are interbred with the full-blooded Cherokee ancestors. So
there's
got
that native blood anyway.
Yeah, so it's a thing. Now I realize that because weirdly, it's so wild when one minority group tries to whitewash their own history while condemning white people for doing the same thing. But that's sort of what we've got going on here. There were a lot of Native Americans that also held slaves. There were also enslaved Native Americans. It was a fucking mess, which is
a lot of
why
black people
clear laws, but fucking what? So the point is, the reason I mention it now is not to make the Cherokee look bad. It's to point out that escaping to Indian territory isn't necessarily the safety that you might think. It's not like all the Indian tribe lands were free. You could still be a slave there. So some fled to Mexico, where slavery was already illegal. Some escaped by sea, including Anna Judge, who's famous for many other reasons. She was an enslaved woman owned by George Washington, and she ran away. She got out, and then she made some additional history. But perhaps we'll get into that another time. Some historians view the waterways of the South as an important component for freedom speakers. That's a whole different thing too. To escape, as water sources were pathways to freedom. Well, that's sort of poetic language. It was something like a highway, you might say, in the days when we didn't have highways like we have now, where a highway was just an elevated dirt road. Occasionally in cities, you'd get paving stones and whatnot, but there wasn't really a constructed infrastructure like we experience today. In addition, historians of the Underground Railroad found that 200,000 runaway slave advertisements in North American newspapers from the middle of the 1700s until the American Civil War. Now, what that means is when a slave that was worth chasing escaped, because they didn't always bother to put out a notice, they'd notify the slave catchers, because that's how the slave catchers made their money, is bounties on the slaves they brought back. But putting ads in newspapers, if somebody who could cause you trouble got away, you'd put ads in the newspapers along the entire likely route north. It was basically like the Old West, because this was, remember, the same period of time as the Old West, when they're putting big old wanted posters and bounty posts. Billy the Kid, $100,000 dead or alive, that sort of thing. It's the same time that was happening. And so they'd put like these bounties and notices in newspapers, like George Washington might have put one out. If you find Anna Judge, bring her back, It was fucking nuts. So freedom seekers in Alabama, for example, would hide on steamboats heading to Mobile in hopes of blending in with the city's free black community, and also hide in other steamboats leaving Alabama that would have headed further northward into the free territories and free states. So you'd have people hiding on steamboats going in both directions. And we see this in literature. Mark Twain mentions escaped slaves hiding on steamboats in a couple of different places.
That just gets me feeling some kind of way, because Jim was free. And he didn't tell him.
Yeah.
Enough about that.
Well, that's another thing, is like a lot of, there was nobody training people on how to escape, right? Like you had to just wing it, because obviously you couldn't pass the knowledge along. There was no mechanism to do that. So sometimes people would hide as stowaways and they'd get caught, but sometimes people would just say, no, I'm a freeman. Leave me alone, you know? And people would be like, oh, they're out in plain sight. Clearly, they're why would they do that if they were an escaped slave who was worried about getting captured? But then the powers that be started to catch on, and they started requiring passes, like not just a ticket, but a pass saying you in particular are a free person, you know?
To say certain words to let them know who you were and who certain signals to know it was safe and you were safe as well. When I was a kid, I was a big Laura Ingalls Wilder's fan. I loved the books and stuff like that. And I can't think of which one it was, but she talked about how it was a Black man trying to escape. And you could see the slave catcher trying to get this man. And Laura kind of was asking like that, what are we going to do? We're going to help the man or something? He was like, basically her dad, Pa, as he called in the book, was like, there's none of our business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing, we're not going to do anything. You know, basically was his response. So what you just said, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, it can get messy.
Yeah.
It's an oof. All right, I'm mentally multitasking here. So
what's new?
I'm going to put a link in the chat. I'm gonna ask for something very unusual. Our friend Godless Granny is doing a premiere right now, and
yeah, I saw.
Yeah. And so like premieres are weird. You can always rewatch them later, but the number of views they get during the premiere, where they're actually like playing through for the first time and there's a side chat live and so forth, it impacts the algorithm more than views after the fact. How many views it gets during the premiere changes how much the algorithm will show it to other people. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat. If you would be so kind as to like open the premiere in a second window, if you want to try and engage with both. Sometimes I do that. I'll watch 2 or 3 streams.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I can't do
crazy person. But at the very least, if you want to play it in the background, it would be very, very helpful for Granny. And
I sure will. We love Granny.
Yeah, I know it's very weird me telling people to watch something else in the middle of my own live stream, but like it makes a big difference, and that's one of the things I would try to do is support our community however we can.
Mm-hmm. That's what we're probably gonna have to do later on with Stuff's thing. Is like it's a premiere, just go over there and let it run in the background.
Yeah, because Persephone. I love Persephone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like with Sunday, I planned Skeptical Scott to be on my show like a couple months apart way. And now you and Joe are doing your stuff 1 o'clock Sunday the same time. But we'll figure it out. Okay.
And as I often say, you're never gonna find a time when there isn't somebody else on. So like
you guys are a little different.
Go on when you can go on, you know?
Yeah, I have my list of creators though that I will not I won't conflict with. So
well, I try not to conflict with a couple other people when at all I can help it. But it's only partly for like that feeling of obligation of not conflicting. But it's also because usually I want to watch their show.
Exactly. Yeah. I like being on this show, and I like watching Politicality. And speaking of Godless Granny, I'm going to be on her show tomorrow, 3:30.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we'll be on her show. So.
Saturday
you got
programming.
a Valentine's date.
Yeah, I have a full day, but yeah, I'll be on her show tomorrow.
Adventures and things.
I know.
All right. Cool beans. Yeah, I'm actually gonna have, obviously I can't listen to both shows because I'm doing one, but I'll actually listen to Persephone later.
Yeah, I just have it in the back. It's just playing. The sound is off, but at least he's getting the views.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's life gets lifey. It gets weird. I mean, I kind of a part of me wants to do a watch party, but like
well,
we had the thing.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you for focusing on Black history, at least Fridays on your channel. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important all year, but like, I really want to call attention to it, especially. I don't know why. Like, I could have just as easily done Mondays. I don't know why I picked Friday specifically. Maybe because it's the end of the week, and I don't know.
It don't matter what day it was. It could be Tuesday.
Yeah, I wanted to put it somewhere, and I wanted to put it somewhere conspicuous. You know, instead of like a Wednesday where it's just like, oh, it's Wednesday, whatever. I don't know.
No, it works for me. We do too much on Monday with the Java and Jugs and then the show. That's why I don't even do any streaming. I do not pick Monday for streaming because I'm too tired.
Yeah,
it's an oof. I keep having ideas about doing the call-in show on the Java and Jugs channel because I've already burned both of my live streams for the day on this channel because I can get away with one horizontal and one separate stream vertical without interfering with myself in the algorithm. If I try to do another live, I can produce other content without interfering with myself, like drop a pre-recorded video if I have one handy. But like if I try to do another live, it'll interfere and nothing will get any views. But if I do lives on another channel, and since both of the lives get done before 1 p.m., they're both morning shows. It's
that's why I've stopped simulcastingly to my channel. I just leave it on the Skeptical Women channel because I want Java and Jugs to kind of stay on there to get more views so they can have their own thing. So then the call-in
It's another
show
reason I want to make more content there. Okay, Jason mentions a thing that I want to talk about. He says you can rate each other's chat back and forth and have everyone hit like buttons over and over each time. It's an old algorithm hack. If everyone is synced, it stinks views. Kind of. There's a bit of a trade-off. There's still it is an old trick, but it doesn't quite work the same way anymore. The algorithm measures watch time of a specific individual versus the average watch time. And if a person, for example, pops in, hits the like button, and then moves on to the next thing, it actually hurts the video's performance. Even though it adds that one view to the counter, it drops the average watch time a lot. And that's what the algorithm is using to make its decision on whether to recommend a video, which is why you'll see a video with like 80 views and 80 likes that the algorithm just doesn't push. You would think 100% like ratio, people like this, but it's because the average watch time is like 10 seconds. And so the algorithm is like, nobody's going to like stay here. So I'm not going to show it to them. So, if you do drop into a video, absolutely hit the like button. That does help, but don't just hit the like and then pop back out again, because that will hurt more than just not watching it. It's better to wait until you have the time to actually watch, even if you're watching later.
I didn't even know that. I listen to it every day.
Yeah. It's fun. Adventures. I mean, not that anybody really understands the algorithm, but in any case, we have more stuff. Lots more history. I know tangents. We are so prone to tangents around.
That's what we're here for, people. The tangents.
It's true. People do, in fact, come here for the tangents. and also, hopefully, for the fundraiser later while I'm tangenting.
For the amazing content.
All right. So I've got, I brought us a crash course on the Underground Railroad. So yeah, let's learn about it.
So we've established that the Underground Railroad wasn't an actual railroad. It's also important to know that even the metaphorical railroad wasn't a centrally organized endeavor. There were no headquarters, no comprehensive maps, no Underground Railroad magazine.
And that's, as we touched on, there couldn't be, because it was an unlawful organization. There were organizations that were put together specifically for the advancement of abolition, and some of them were also active in Underground Railroad efforts, but you couldn't have the head office of Underground Railroad operations because the slave catchers would just raid it, you know?
Yeah.
You didn't want it set up so that if they could capture one person, they could capture everybody else who was breaking the Fugitive Slave Act law. You know, everybody needed to say isolated and limited so that it was a cell structure. It was modular because sometimes people did get caught and you needed to be able to adapt around that to stay operational, you know?
People we now view as part of the Underground Railroad across the country didn't actually know anything about one another. The Underground Railroad was made of individuals and small networks of people working together amid the larger, less centralized operation. And while the Underground Railroad wasn't a literal train, they did often use the language of train infrastructure. The various stops and safe houses could be known as stations. The guides who led the escapees to different stations were conductors, and the folks who hid escaped slaves in their homes might be known as station masters. Harriet Tubman.
Now, it's because it's a code. It wasn't like it was universal. You couldn't take a time machine and go and ask somebody about a station or a favorite conductor because they may not know what you're talking about, or they may feign ignorance because slave catchers weren't stupid. They could pick up on lingo, and so they may try to use lingo to get into a network cell and try to break the whole thing up. So you had to be careful about who you approach. That's why there were agents as go-betweens between the railroad and the people trying to escape. It was another layer of protection.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on like Harriet, on the movie Harriet, and sometimes they would have different code words they use, and sometimes they would realize that maybe the slave catchers figured it out and they have to change the words that they would use and stuff like that as well. So
yeah, passwords and such. It was just it was just basic security.
And among the most famous conductors used this sort of language herself, saying in 1896, quote, "I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." It's unclear where the term Underground Railroad first originated, but it's said to have first appeared in an 1839 newspaper. Frederick Douglass alludes to it in his 1845 autobiography, where he expresses frustration at the abolitionists who have been talking about the network with such a lack of discretion that he says is turning the operation into an upper ground railroad. See,
leave it to Frederick Douglass, who, as you know from our Harriet Tubman episode, the man deserves his own episode. He did a lot of stuff. He was much more visible and vocal, and I mean, he could write, right? Which that in and of itself, a rarity for free people at the time and illegal for enslaved people. Slaves were not allowed to know how to read and write. So yeah, it was kind of a big deal. But yeah, people being indiscreet kind of exposes you to additional risk, even with code phrases and things. Zorcrest points out the same kind of language is used in The Handmaid's Tale. Yes, and for that very reason, although it's a little bit harder to hide because the railroad was terminology of the day, whereas in Handmaid's Tale, which is basically present day and very much quickly becoming like present conditions, but never mind that, railroads are less used. They're not unheard of, but they're less used. But they did use similar words so that everybody knew what everybody was talking about. It was a clear communication kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the practices were very similar too. I believe Margaret Atwood said that she researched quite a bit about the pre-Civil War Underground Railroad to figure out how, and also World War II Europe, pre-World War II Europe, when the Jews were trying to escape Nazi-occupied territory, to find out how you hide people successfully from a very motivated group of angry armed people hunting for them. It's hard to be successful, and under the best of circumstances, you still only have a probability. There is never certainty of safety or of success, but you can do certain things to increase your odds. Like, you know, don't just hide people under a pile of laundry or in a haystack. Like, actually hide them, like in secret rooms and shit. Even that isn't 100% though. You know, we've seen
see they would pull them under the floorboards. It'd be like a rug and a table and a chair, and they pull the floorboard up and they'll hide under there. Like, dang, like they really knew some hiding spots.
Sure did.
What was the Bible story we did where they put them in the roof? The lady put them in the roof, the slave. The crazy cartoon we saw, and they end up hiding them in the roof, in the little roof part. But yeah, we figured it.
All over the place. Now, while we're on the subject, I haven't played this in a few days, but I want to remind everybody of exactly how much like those two periods in history the present stands to be if we don't resist.
I have a problem with this stuff being normalized across the spectrum, and specifically, like, why push this on kids? Why introduce this to kids?
I am a depraved wretch. I am a great sinner. I'm a worm, completely undeserving of any love or any grace. I'm nothing. I'm nothing.
You're incapable of being a good person. You're an evil person. You're a terrible person. At the core fabric of who you are. That's why we need laws. We need laws because we're bad people. All of us are bad people.
You can't spell Pride Month without demon. PRIDEMONTH.
If we don't know who the women are, because there are just people, then we won't be able to pull the women up to equality with men.
You have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transition. And that's for two reasons. One of them is that every one of those people is a person who's been damaged. But the second one is every one of those people is basically, a huge problem to a sane world.
Transgenderism must be eradicated.
The LGBT, transgender, grooming our children's minds is a national security threat. We need to hold people for treason, start having some public hearings, and start executing people.
I will use whatever gives me victory. I don't care about the truth, and I don't care about the law. I care about one thing, the control.
But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president.
Then what happened is they rigged the election, and I became president, so that was a good thing.
I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president, but I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
We've been hoodwinked. We've been taken in by an ideology crafted by creeps and then pushed on children.
Stop letting people pressure you into thinking.
If they die, they die.
I want to be ignorant, honestly.
Being a Christian doesn't exclude us from experiencing spiritual dryness.
We're bad people. All of us are bad people.
Oh shit, we lost our Lil.
Yeah, she said she had a headache.
Oh no.
So
I see. She did leave a note. I didn't. Yeah. I was multitasking. So
as always.
Yeah.
That pastor, they need to check his web browser.
Which one?
The self-reflecting one. The one that was talking about they need to be caught with a treason. The homo gays and all that. Like
that guy, yeah.
Yeah, there's something about him that's kind of creepy.
And more than a little.
Yeah, and then the one who talk about I'm sinful. I don't need love. Like you need to go to therapy.
Yeah,
you think that bad about yourself?
That fella's name is Gospelogian, and I've actually interviewed him.
Oh wow!
I was trying to make sense of the fucking Trinity. I'm like, maybe you can explain this to me, we weren't able to connect on that. He's actually a genuinely nice dude. He made some atheist headlines a couple of years ago when he was saying atheists don't exist, and he did that whole argument about how like you can't believe there's no magic unicorns because your act of disbelief in magic unicorns means there has to be a magic unicorn for you to not believe in, or something like it was that level of argument. And so a lot of people were like,
say so, dude.
yeah, a lot of people were like, I want to talk to you. But I almost didn't include him because he's not actually bad people. But I did because of the way he expresses that very common sentiment from within Christianity.
I'm nothing.
I am a horrible person. I'm worth nothing. And if you can convince people that they themselves are worth nothing, that their lives mean nothing, then they will not blink about taking someone else's life. And that's the reason
taking
that
their own
manipulation
life.
is done.
Taking their own life too.
Right. But I mean, that's their choice. If a person wants
Yeah.
to throw their life away for something they believe in, whatever. But if they think life is worthless because their own life is worthless, therefore everyone else's lives are worthless, they won't think anything about shooting a woman in an SUV in the face, or gunning down an unarmed man in the back, or any of the other examples you could probably think of that have happened recently. You know, it's really easy to turn people into cannon fodder in a holy war if they believe life does not have any meaning, you know?
Yeah.
Shit's dangerous.
I'm
Douglas
like you. I'm
thought
multitasking.
this might compromise.
That's crazy.
What's
isn't
that?
it? I said you have an effect on people because I'm multitasking now.
All right. Underground Railroad.
The entire operation. He wanted it to be something more covert, more underground. Sometimes when people tell the story of the Underground Railroad,
Can I hear
they
him?
imagine
I'll be right back. It seems like that always happens on the stream for me. I hear you. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay. And all y'all let me know if there's audio issues, because I may not experience a difficulty and the audio may go out and I may have to reset something. So, I mean, y'all are usually pretty good about saying there's no audio on something, but there is a delay, because by the time you see something, it's like 22 seconds later, and then you type it in the chat, and by the time it shows up back here, so time.
some early scholars depicted in their own work was a network made primarily of benevolent white abolitionists who helped escape slaves who couldn't help themselves. And while there were many white abolitionists who were absolutely involved in the system, sometimes this story can lead to many people ignoring or erasing the fact that it was mostly Black people who were part of.
That is a super, super important point, because it's so wild that people are like, oh, well, it was mostly good white. There's racism in the presentation of how the thing to help with the racism problem happened. Like, my goodness, it really is true. Like, yes, there were helpful white people who had a conscience. Absolutely. There had to be to make this work. But also, it was mostly Black people, and it had to be to make this work. So many of the routes out of slave territory passed through towns where there were free Black communities. That was a necessary stopover point, not just because it was a place where people expected to see free Blacks and therefore it was safer than any other place in the territory, but also because free Black people had passes. They had documentation saying, I am a free Black person, to prove to the slave catchers and other authorities that they were not an escaped slave. To successfully get the hell out, you needed one of those passes, which means you needed to go where the people had the passes in order to forge a copy.
Yeah.
Of and who led the Underground Railroad's efforts. What's more, there were also differences in the consequences and implications of their work if they were caught. Many white abolitionists would face fines or public shame, depending on the community in which they were operating. But for most Black abolitionists and escapees, everything was on the line. They could be returned to slavery, tortured, or even killed.
That's a thing that gets overlooked a lot too in our pleasant washing of history is, oh, well, I mean, why not try to escape? Because if you're caught, you just get returned. You've lost nothing and had a vacation. No.
That ain't how that works.
But you'd be beaten, you'd be punished, you'd be tortured. Sometimes, depending on the community, you decorate a tree as a warning to others to not try to escape, to say there is no hope. You will be captured. And when you're captured, you will also become a decoration on the tree. So don't run away.
Worth homing in on one person who played a specifically noteworthy role in the operation. His name is William Still, and he came to be known by many as the father of the Underground Railroad. Let's go to the thought bubble. William Still was born in Burlington County, New Jersey in 1821 to Charity and Levin Still, both of whom were formerly enslaved. He was the youngest.
Okay, freeborn, but child of slaves. See, the show is a Learn Together Live. I'm learning stuff too.
Yeah.
I have never heard of this person before.
Me either.
So we all learn stuff. And I love that for us.
Live, learn together.
That's right. I also hate that our education system is so bad. I've never heard of this person before.
Sad thing you're not going to.
In 1847, William, who had moved to Philadelphia, was hired as a clerk for the Pennsylvania Society for the Abolition of Slavery. And when abolitionists in Philadelphia organized a vigilance committee to provide assistance to escaped slaves, Still became the chairman of the group and a leader of Philadelphia's Black community. He and his wife Letitia moved into a row house that would become a well-known station on the Underground Railroad. During his abolitionist...
I'm not sure if a well-known station is really what you want to aim for.
Yeah.
Because like even if you're in a free place so that the slave catchers can't arrest you for running a way station, if they know where the safe house is, they can just keep an eye on it. They can put it under observation and just wait for people to come out and then arrest them, you know?
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
What's that?
I was just agreeing with you on your comment you just said.
Okay.
William Still helped nearly 800 enslaved people escape to freedom. But don't get lost in the numbers. Each of these people had a face, a name, a story. And each of those stories was one that Still believed was worth preserving. So what he did was...
It's another important point. When we look back at history, we see numbers. We see Harriet Tubman rescued 70 people on the Underground Railroad, freed over 700 in total through her work during the Civil War. Like, cool, good numbers, awesome, super job. You freed people. Some of their lives are definitely saved because of what you did. But they're not just numbers. They're all people. Like, that's one of the reasons that our schools do make such a big deal about Anne Frank and her diary, because it is one of the few diaries of a person who was actively hiding, trying to get away. And because of her tragic fate happened to be known, and because of her age, it makes her more sympathetic. There's a bunch of propagandistic reasons to promote her story, but it is an important thing to do regardless of the propaganda reason, because it's not just 6 million Jews. It's Anne Frank, this girl whose diary you read, who you've come to know, was put to death by the government for who she is.
Yeah. And then when I started looking at things, and when I realized that her, my grandma, Martin Luther King, and even what's the actress that died? The Golden Girls, Betty White, were all on the same age. I mean, they all were born around the same time. And you're like, dang, like, history wasn't that far away. It seemed so far away, but it really wasn't.
It's shocking sometimes how stuff all overlaps. Like, I mean, the fact that Ruby Bridges is still alive, you know?
She's younger than my mom.
Yeah. It doesn't cross people's minds. They're like, oh, the 1960s was like our parents' age, you know? It's not that far back.
Yeah, she's younger than my mom is, so yeah.
But yeah, like Hey Patch points out, humanization. You can't just let the numbers be numbers. You have to humanize it because there's a reality to it. It's like so many people today are like, I would do something, but I could only save 1 or 2 people. It's not enough to be worth risking my life. Isn't it though? A firefighter, for example, granted it's their job or their chosen occupation, will risk their life for 1 person. There's nobody who stands outside a burning building and goes, oh, well, if it's only 1 child, I'm not going in. No, every life is worth it, even if that person isn't the kind of person you might approve of. We're not sitting here in moral judgment going, oh, but how did you vote in the 2024 election before I save you? You know, it doesn't matter. Every life matters. That's one of the things that sets humanism apart from the religions, is lives matter even if the person sucks. Everybody deserves second chances, but it's not in a crisis situation. It doesn't even matter because it's still a life. I'm probably not making this very clear. I got you. I just really want to emphasize that. Maybe the problem is I need to hydrate. Hey folks, I've been working hard on my health, and so far I've lost over 140 pounds. A huge part of good health is hydration. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Epic Water Filters. Check this out. Not only can you say goodbye to expensive bottled water, but these filters are made in the US, so no tariffs, and they're made to fit your life. From these lovely pitchers I can fill from, to sink units, to portable filters that fit in your reusable bottle. With Epic, I can refill from nature's water sources and not have to worry about bacteria and whatnot. But also, send back a used filter to be responsibly recycled, and they'll send you a free replacement, saving you and the earth even more. Want to save a ton of money, be healthier, and build a better world? Head to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Don't settle for random water. Upgrade to Epic. I missed the opportunity to get that in earlier when we were talking about waterways. I'm very bad at this, folks. I'm sure you can tell.
But you got it in. That's all that matters.
Actually, I just wanted to lighten the mood slightly, to put a breaker in because it was getting kind of heavy. So let's get back to the story.
Interview those individuals who escaped as they passed through Philadelphia, and he kept meticulous records about where they were coming from and where they were going. He knew that such a detailed record could help reunite families who were separated under slavery. These records...
That's true, but also dangerous, because if a slave catcher got their hands on his notebook, they'd know which slaves they're chasing and where they went.
Eventually became a book published in 1872, known as the Underground Railroad Records, which chronicles the stories of 649 enslaved people who escaped to freedom. To this day, it remains an invaluable resource for scholars in helping understand the context and methods of the people who escaped the claws of slavery. And reportedly, Still himself said, quote, "The heroism and desperate struggle that many of our people had to endure should be kept green in the memory of this and coming generations." Thanks, Thought Bubble. Another thing I believed when I was younger was that millions of enslaved people escaped through the Underground Railroad to freedom. But that's not really true. Scholars still debate the actual number, but the historian Eric Foner estimates that between 1830 and 1860, some 30,000 fugitives were at some stage part of the Underground Railroad. But other scholars...
So that's an interesting perspective, that it isn't just free blacks trying to help escaped slaves, but a lot of escaped slaves who were helping other escaped slaves. We know this is true. Harriet Tubman herself was an escaped slave. Like, she wasn't just a free black person trying to rescue other slaves. She was an escapee who kept putting herself back in slave catcher territory to save other people. Like, that's an extra level of bravery, but she
Yeah.
was not alone. Obviously, she wasn't, but we don't think about it that way, you know?
No, that's very true.
Believe that the number was closer to 50,000, and some think it was twice that many. So compared to the millions of people who were enslaved throughout America's history, tens of thousands doesn't seem like that much. And to be clear, it's not to say that their lives don't matter, or that their success in finding some semblance of freedom should be taken for granted. Even just one person finding freedom is meaningful.
This is Harriet Tubman's family later in life, actually.
Oh.
I remember coming across this photo when I was looking for photos of her for the thumbnail on her episode. Like, I believe that this, I don't know. There's two photos that are mixed in my head, but there's one where she's standing in this position on the far left, but in that one, there's a man next to her, which is according to the caption, her second husband. And then there's a much older woman, possibly her mother, in this position, and then other family members around. But since this is not a man, I suspect this might be her descendants and her in her extreme old age. I don't know why they'd recreate the same position, but maybe that was just a thing photographers at the time did. It was just the style. I don't know.
But at the same time, we shouldn't delude ourselves into thinking that huge percentages of enslaved people escaped, because that simply isn't true. This is important because sometimes that myth can be used to mitigate our collective discomfort around this country's history of slavery. If we can convince ourselves that so many people escaped, then maybe it will let us feel a little bit less horrible about what happened here. But we can't let that be the case. We have to sit with the discomfort. And the existence of the Underground Railroad can't be used as a way to run from that. Additionally,
it's true. We don't like to think about uncomfortable thoughts. And the Underground Railroad, great achievement, great symbol of defiance of authority when that authority advocates for horrible and awful things. And the inevitable consequences of the use of that authority are torture and death. Enslavement was not just a deprivement of freedom, not just forced labor. You were property. You could be beaten, and no one could save you because they had the legal authority to do that. They could torture you, they could rape you, and then they could take away the children they made you carry and sell them to someone else. It's beyond our modern imagining. There's a block in our minds that will not let us think that far into horror.
Well, I don't
because
know.
that's what it is.
I mean, rational people like you and myself, but it's people out here, let's talk about the kind of, they're doing with the immigrants, locking them up and stuff like that. So that's kind of showing me people do have that mindset still.
A lot of times we compare what the Americans are doing now to what the Nazis
It's
did.
not
in
nearly
World War
as
II.
bad, but yeah.
It's not the same yet.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. Everything the Nazis did, they got the idea from the United States. Eugenics was an American pseudoscience before it was a German pseudoscience. The anti-Semitism came from America. The concentration camp plan came from America.
Just like apartheid. They took our ideas too. Same thing.
All those seeds were from here, and they're still here, and they currently have all the power. Fuck.
God, who was I watching? But basically, they were talking about how they want to get these immigrants and they don't want to send them back. But if they're in prison, that means that you have to be working and you can be a slave under the prison system. And that's their plan. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they were talking about. Get these illegal immigrants so they can be slaves. Will be prisoners so they would have to work for free.
There may be some people who have that as a plan, but I don't know how centralized the plotting and scheming is. It seems to have an evolutionary component in that you'll have a social parasite, a person who wants to exploit others for their own enrichment and gain and power and so forth. And they will use what is and make it one notch more evil. Like, I don't think there's necessarily a master puppeteer pulling the strings and drawing us towards some inevitable conclusion that's already been predetermined. It can feel that way sometimes.
Yeah.
But the way there's so much infighting between the different factions indicates to me that there isn't some power behind the throne calling the shots. They're all just evil. But we get different, like, there's some people who certainly do. I mean, we're building the concentration camps now. You know, we're building one that's supposed to have a capacity of 700,000 people in Pennsylvania, for example. That's part of it. But also, there's a big part of the way our version of capitalism is set up is it's designed to enslave everyone. Effectively, every American citizen is already a low-key slave. You get to choose your owner in that you get to choose which corporation you are owned by. But as long as you're owned, the powers that be are fine with that.
What was in some ways just as important as the actual number of enslaved people who escaped is the symbolism of what the Underground Railroad represented. It was something that represented hope and possibility for many enslaved people, and also something that instilled an enormous amount of fear in enslavers. I mean, these are many of the same people who believed in Samuel Cartwright's bizarre contention that Black people who wanted to run away were actually suffering from a disease, something he called drapetomania.
Wow.
That's a big I'm so glad that came
Wow.
up.
Yeah, me too.
Because, like, I've seen that here and there, but I didn't think to, like, make a thing about it. Whenever people do something that the powers that be don't like, it gets somebody will declare it a disorder, whether it's trans people existing or people thinking that Trump is a lunatic. Someone will declare it a disorder and slap a label on it to try to keep people from doing it, or at least give the partisans on the pro-evil person side a term to throw out as a way to discredit people who say otherwise. And we're seeing Trump derangement syndrome being used as a way to discount people's complaints about the acts of this administration on the floor of Congress.
That's crazy. I don't want to be a slave, so I have a disorder.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want you want to address your trans and be who you are, and you have a disorder too. Yeah, women thinking for themselves. I did see a movie that it had Angelina Jolie, and it had several women, and so she got placed in this mental hospital. And there was a lot of women because they wanted to have their own rights and stuff like that was institutionalized. It's based on a true story. I gotta find it, but yeah, they were institutionalized because women wanted rights.
There's a lot to this kind of thing. There's layers upon layers upon layers. We could talk about this for days. We sadly don't have days, but we do what we can. I mean, yeah. All right. I want to try to let this guy finish and get to some of the cool stuff that Kelly sent me before the show started, before the show ends. So let's try to do it.
Drapetomania. Cartwright mentions two potential treatments for the disease: treating one's slaves kindly but firmly, or failing that, quote, whipping the devil out of them. The Underground Railroad is actually one of
Oh, look, it's conversion therapy for people who desire freedom.
Something's never
the
changed.
reasons that many southern states were so adamant about passing the Fugitive Slave Law of 1850, so that even if their enslaved property escaped to the north, these northern states would, by law, be required to assist the slave catchers and slaveholders in recapturing the escapees. If they didn't, there would be a significant fine.
No, it's a little more detailed than that. Like, you can't just slap a fine on a state. Like, what do you mean? Who specifically is required to comply, and under what terms? And their laws can be very complicated. But broadly speaking, yeah, the Fugitive Slave Act was a federal law requiring all of the states to comply with the South's bullshit. Rather than, and this is, people raise a whole bunch of shit about how the presidents at the time didn't do enough to stop the Civil War from happening. That law is what made the Civil War inevitable, because instead of taking a stand for human rights, which is what, according to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, our government existed to do, they extended the states who didn't have human rights ability to enforce that removal of rights to other states. Instead of saying on the federal level, like every other country did at the time, no more slavery, this is a moral horror, it is a violation of all human rights. The United States went the other direction and said, yes, it's true in the North, you understand human rights, but we're going to make you, they had the power to tell the South, we're not doing that anymore, period. It is illegal in this entire union to do that. Instead of doing that, they took the money and they said, we're going to make the South's laws applicable to the North. Fuck.
Did they forget that a lot of the presidents were slave owners themselves? So of course we're not going to change the law, and how Abraham Lincoln, that freedom for the slave, he just did that so that they could be fighting for the North. It was not about us being free, because the first Constitution set us up to be slaves forever. Then after the war started, that's when they was like, well, maybe we should free these slaves so they can work, come on our side for the Civil War. But it was nothing about us being free. They never wanted us to be free. It's a lie that they tell.
And weirdly, we see exactly the same kind of conflict between standing up for human rights and deliberately oppressing human rights. Like, so many people even today say, oh, the South, it wasn't fighting for slavery, it was fighting for states' rights. Well, what right did the states want specifically to preserve? It was the ability to have slaves. And we see that in all the speeches that all the Southern leaders gave. This is about our right to own slaves, despite what they'd say in the North. In the North, on the other hand, the fucking progressives, these damn liberals, these young Republicans at the time were the Progressive Party. They'd say shit like, if I could end the war by freeing every slave, I would do that. If I could end the war by not freeing any slave, I would do that. And if I could end the war by freeing some and leaving others in bondage, I would also do that. That's a quote from Abraham Lincoln. The great liberator, the great emancipator. This is a direct parallel to Kamala Harris saying, trans people, I will follow the law, but no farther. Like, when we do not make a positive, active defense of the people whose rights are under threat from the asshole conservatives, we're handing all of our moral arguments to the conservatives. You cannot do that. If your party exists because of a moral insistence on human rights, period, you have to stand behind that. You cannot compromise on that. You cannot run from that. You cannot make the case that what's going on is something other than what it obviously and blatantly is. You have to push back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm getting all preachy again.
You and me both. I can go on about this topic. Finally, a topic that I can talk about. Most time I'm just learning. But my mom was a social studies teacher, so I kind of had to learn about a lot of history, and I do go to the Charles Wright Museum a lot. I'm going, actually, was it this next week with our group, and I'm doing a little training with them. So yeah.
Nice.
I should know about my own history.
It's helpful. I mean, none of us knows everything there is to know about our own history, or how our history connects the lessons of. This is why we don't teach history. The lessons of our history become very obvious in the moments in the present that seem to mirror or parallel or resonate or whatever. They don't want us to know history because they don't want us to know these same battles have been fought before. The names of the parties, the target of the scapegoating, the people being harmed changes, but it's the same battle over and over and over.
More, the way the judicial system was set up at the time made it so that the commissioners were incentivized to side with the slave catchers because they were paid $10 for a decision that confirmed the Black person as escaped property and only $5 for a ruling that stated a given suspect was free. Another really important part of the story of the Underground Railroad is that while it focuses on people escaping to the north, the majority of enslaved people who attempted to escape actually did so by escaping to the Caribbean, Spanish Florida, Native American communities in the Southeast United States, free Black communities in the Upper South, and Mexico. In 1829, Mexican President Vicente Guerrero, who was himself of mixed European, Native American, and African ancestry, abolished slavery in the country. Subsequently, many enslaved people who lived near the U.S.-Mexico border sought their freedom in America's neighbor to the south. Altogether, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Catherine Schultz.
A lot of people find that surprising, and I'm not sure why, because only a couple decades prior, Texas was part of Mexico. People were like, why would they want to go to that shithole country when they could stay where people speak English? That's projecting modern preconceptions onto things. Remember, a big portion of the enslaved population in Texas were mixed race.
Texas,
some of them
California,
were Spaniards,
Nevada, all of those was Mexico.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they why wouldn't they go to Mexico? The United States is a place. Oh, but they speak English and free states and yada. This is a country that allows them to be enslaved, whereas Mexico says, no, we're not doing that shit here. And also, it's closer. Practicality. Remember, slaves often had nothing. $0, no pesos. Travel is expensive, even back then. Are you going to go somewhere that you have to buy like 3 train tickets and a steamboat pass to get to? Or are you going to go to the place you can walk to?
Argues that those groups of people combined likely outnumber the people who escaped to either northern free states or Canada. I think there's another important thing to say here, and it's that when I was younger, I silently wondered why every enslaved person couldn't simply escape slavery if they didn't want to be enslaved. I heard the stories of the Underground Railroad. I heard the stories of people like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, or even Henry Box Brown, who actually snuck into a crate and shipped himself to freedom on a 27-hour-long trip from Richmond, Virginia to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I heard these stories.
Yeah, there's a few stories like that, even today, although his was perhaps the most famous for that very reason. Like, yeah, shipping yourself. I mean, people do it for like YouTube pranks these days, but technically you cannot send humans or even human body parts by mail. But you can send like farm animals and shit. So, okay. And there was a time when you could send babies by post.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. That the post office, they had pictures of them having children in their arms. When I was a kid, it was a fake. Of course, it wasn't real. But the book was called Flat Stanley. It was like my 2nd grade book. It was a little small book. And so the papers fell on Stanley and he got flat. So when he went to visit their grandma, they folded them up and mailed them. So his grandma, it was a stupid little book. I don't know.
Yeah. All kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, he raises our presenter. He raises another really good point, because like we were talking about earlier, a lot of people are just like, why didn't all the slaves run away if the worst outcome was being re-enslaved? because that wasn't the worst possible outcome.
No, it
It
wasn't.
wasn't a you have nothing to lose, and there were a lot of fears added to, like religion, there were a lot of fears to motivate people to not resist.
And I found myself angered by the idea of those who didn't escape. Had they not tried hard enough? Didn't they care enough to do something? Did they choose to remain enslaved? On the one hand, it's deeply important to learn about enslaved people who escaped. At the same time, sometimes we can unintentionally lift up only the stories of exceptional people or exceptional acts in ways that implicitly blame those who cannot, despite the most brutal of circumstances, attain such superhuman heights. And sometimes this can take away a focus from blaming the system, the people who built it, and the people who maintained it. There were other brilliant, exceptional people who lived under slavery, and many resisted the institution in innumerable ways. But our country's teachings about slavery, painfully limited, often focus singularly on heroic slave narratives and Underground Railroad stories of daring escapes at the expense of the millions of men and women whose stories might be less sensational, but are no less worthy of being told. The vast
No, there's a flip side to this coin too, right? Like we like to praise our heroes. We like to present the stories of the people who successfully escaped and the people who helped others escape and so on. And that's good. That we need that. That's important history. But it is equally important to bear witness to the stories of the people who helped the system. The Black overseers who were handed whips and beat their fellow Africans and African descended people for the benefit of the rich white man in the plantation. Their stories matter because there was an understanding and abuse of human psychology. Everyone was treated like a creature.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the one hand, you had the fear of displeasing the master. What would happen to you? The same as any other slave. But on the other hand, you got the reward of a slightly better position and power, if only you would sell your humanity as well. It was an impossible choice, which we can look back at from the present and on our moral lofty perch and say, well, obviously I would turn that down. I would take a beating rather than beat another person for the benefit of the rich slave master asshole. Or I would beat the slave master asshole. But that's not how fear works. That's not how power works. Maybe you would if you found yourself in that position. I know some of us have been in similar positions, and some of us would make that choice.
I mean, you can look at the work history now, how people snitch. Like I work for a union, and how many people snitch on other coworkers at work and stuff like that. So people still have that mentality. They think that if they sell you out, that they're gonna get the benefits or get special treatment. And when we talk about like even like the slave catchers, some of them were Black.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the police force actually came to be. So the first police force was slave catchers, and the Black people that was in there was that. But they weren't able to do anything else besides get the slaves once it became the police department.
Yeah. It's seriously fucked up. And we need to remember there's people like that out there too. And as the religious people say, but for the grace of God, it could have been any one of us. And we don't know how we'd react unless we ourselves are in that position.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to condemn people today. And we like to think we'd make a different choice. But it's so hard to know, you know?
Yeah, we don't know.
As Jason says, what percentage of Americans would help, but...
That part right there.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't none of my business. It ain't nobody I know that's a slave or that's trans, that's an immigrant. So why am I going to stick my nose into something that ain't really my business.
Right. The Dow is over
Exactly.
5,000, apparently. Why would I interfere with any of that?
And then you got people that's actually helping. They shut them out their business, so they would have still been alive. Blah blah blah.
Yep. There's a lot more really interesting and really important stuff in that documentary. So, well, that crash course video. So
Yes.
I'm gonna shrinky it down so I can get the link. This is from the Crash Course channel, which does not need my help to promote. But if you want to watch the
Yeah, they
specific,
got enough. Yeah, they need to give us some of theirs.
but yeah, there's, oh my goodness. But I do want to show off at least one of the things that Kelly sent me, because there's some nifty stuff here. Often, like I keep talking about, we can tell stories about the whole of the railroad, but like, how did it work though? So, people, they try to make contact with the railroad through agents. Usually, if you had the opportunity, it was safest to have an agent connect with you and say, hey, I can get you out. Meet me at the bridge at this time or something. And then you'd go and you'd meet your first conductor who would lead you to your first safe house. And then you'd stay there overnight. And then a different conductor, because remember, this is all modular. Nobody should know too much. A different conductor would come and meet you the next day and take you on the journey to the next way station. And so on and so forth until you're out, if all goes well. But that's generally how it worked. But what were the stops like? Well, this Second Baptist Church in Detroit, it was in Detroit, so it was very near the finish line. But
yes,
it was one of the stops, and that church is still there.
Yes.
The page says,
I have friends that actually are members of that church.
hell yeah. Yeah, they're the church that works with the Humanist Association sometimes, aren't they?
I believe so. I know.
I seem to recall Steve Cicadas mentioned them by name for completely different reasons.
Yeah,
and there were a lot of religious people who stepped the fuck up. It's not to say religion always makes you evil, The Quakers, for example, the Quakers come up so much in American history because America keeps doing the wrong thing, morally speaking, and the Quakers oppose them. Public Universal Friend, the first American who is publicly non-binary, also negotiated a peace treaty between the colonists and the Haudenosaunee at the Treaty of Canandaigua. Trans people and Quakers have made a big fucking deal in American history, but the Quakers played a big role in the Underground Railroad because they knew one of the fundamental beliefs of the Quaker version of Christianity is that what most people call a soul, they believe is a fragment of the divine. That's what that passage means, that we're all image bearers of God, is there is an actual piece of God in all of us. And so to properly worship God, we ought to be worshiping each other. We ought to perceive other human beings as sacred. And in that respect, slavery isn't just a moral horror, it's an actual full-on sin. And it's their sacred duty to do everything they can to help enslaved people get the fuck away. And they did. They stepped up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole bunch of stories about that. We don't have time to get into that today.
No,
there's never enough time, folks.
So little time in the day. I'm gonna drop my phone.
I know. I blame myself. It's all the tangents, but honestly, we could not get into all these side subjects.
Yeah, I was trying. Yeah, I tried to send you something about the Jebediah. That's where people, once they went to Canada, that's like where they went. That was the other thing that I showed you. But I've actually been here. I've been to service, but I've also went on the tour, and it's amazing how it's just a little room. That's all it is. But that's all basically. The safe houses were stations. I thought it was something really amazing, but it was just a room in the basement where they hid people.
I can't highlight text on this page for some reason, but it says here, 5,000 freedom seekers passed through this location. It's a room in the basement, and 5,000 people passed through it on their way to freedom. And remember, at the time, Michigan was like at the frontier. 5,000 people went through the fucking frontier, you know?
Another station was in Tecumseh. There was a Tecumseh, Canada, and there's also Tecumseh, Michigan. But the stations in, so it was a couple other stations that were in Michigan that I want to research more about.
Okay, let's see. We've got a timeline here. I'll cover real quick before we got to go. 1815, slaves arrive in Detroit. 1828, First Baptist Church is established at Fort Griswold. 1831, slaves Ruthie or Lucy and Thornton Blackburn escape from Kentucky. In 1832, William Butler, the first Black person to be accepted as a member of the First Baptist Church. 1833, the Blackburns are arrested. Fugitive slave laws, first race riot in Detroit. Ruh-roh. 1836, Second Baptist Church becomes a congregation. 1839, Second Baptist Church opens at State Street and Griswold, the historical location. They had 3 locations that were operational at the time, but this is the last one remaining.
Yeah.
1853, Reverend Troy, a former minister from the Second Baptist, founded the First Baptist of Windsor, Windsor being on the Ontario side.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. They're making connections. The Second Baptist moved to its current location. So they had the locations of Fort Street Station, Fort and Boobin, Fort Hastings, and Croghan. 4 campuses, which actually does make things a little easier for moving people around, because you can be moving people from one location to another.
They're right near each other. And side note, I must say that the church is in an area that's called Greek Town. You want to get some delicious Greek food, that's your spot in Detroit area. Delicious Greek food. I know that's a whole other thing, and I'm hungry because my food has come. But it is.
I know. I need. At least we didn't talk about food much this stream, so we were able to stay more on topic.
If you want to get some good Greek food, go to the area around that church.
Sometimes I do extend the show so that we can like hand off to someone else, but I can't go all day.
I am going to Seth's show, but that's going to be a recorded thing. So we finish up here. So that's not an actual recording.
Yeah.
It's not live.
Yeah. But I do actually
hope you guys learned some things like we did.
What's that? Oh, I was just saying that sometimes I run the show late so we can hand off, but I can't run for like 6 hours like I would sometimes like to do, because I have to take medicine, and some of the medicine needs food. So I actually do have to take breaks and feed myself from time to time. But also, it's nice if people can watch these things back, because I realize there's a lot of tangents and sometimes we get kind of silly, and it's not like 100% historical content the way a pre-recorded video would be. That's one of the charms of being here live is we get to play together a little bit too. So if you're watching in the future, hello, future people. Thank you for watching. But do subscribe so you can join us in the live chat. But also, I try to make these rewatchable. I know not a lot of people do rewatch live streams later. I'm trying to change that. We can only do so much. But for those of you here now, please do share these streams. I guess Kelly had to scoot, because the algorithm isn't going to. The only way stuff like this, the very stuff we learned today, the only way anyone else is ever going to see it is if you share it, because the algorithm sure as hell won't. Thank you so much for joining. I very, very much appreciate it. Remember, fundraiser tonight for our friend Helen, because that's what we humanists do, is we try to help other humans. As many of you know, I myself am very, very poor. I'm having trouble affording food. But hosting a fundraiser is something I can do. If you too are very, very poor, I understand. But coming, if you can, sharing, if you can't, or if you can, spread the word, do what you can do. It's all that we can do. And every little bit of it does help, like we covered a little bit today. And as always, remember, you don't have to pretend humans that you're actively oppressing are somehow less than human just to make yourself feel a little bit better about it. You could just oppose the evil because you are better than religion. We'll see you tonight. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for January. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkison, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Secular Feelinist, Kelly King, The Detroit Atheist Queen, Geo Sam, Thriver Scapegoat, The Godless Engineer, Why Because Weed Bro, and Katie Bluebird. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop.